All right, what's good, people? So I thought about making a knife of the year video, but it seems kind of silly to me because knives are so subjective that what's good to me might not be good to the next person. So instead, I thought I would do best value knife of the year. Um, I feel like at least with best value knife of the year, I can be kind of objective about some of the things that I'm going to talk about. So as you can see, we've got the Kizer Milit in DLC and Purple Haze Fat Carbon and S45VN. It's a full titanium bolster lock. Well, yeah, bolster, frame lock, whatever, however you want to look at it. It's contoured, and it's got a full DLC, nice, shiny, smooth DLC finish over the S45VN. And I think it's hard to deny that this knife is probably the best valued knife. Maybe, well, for this year, for sure, this year. But hell, it might be ever, until DLC becomes uh, more readily available, let's say, and more companies are using it and able to give it this type of finish. As it stands, only really Kunwu, Kizer, and Riot, and I think uh, Remet are and I haven't seen any from Remet, so I can't say for sure that it's the shiny stuff like this is. But man, this stuff picks up fingerprints like you wouldn't believe. But it's hard to put a dent in it scratch wise. I can tell you that much. Because I've done some cutting with this thing. And, and it's not just the DLC and the titanium and the carbon fiber. A lot of it is the action. This thing has such a snappy detent. I mean, when I think of a snappy detent, this is what comes to mind. It's so good. It's just so good. The detent on it is, pretty much everything I could ever dream of for the perfect detent. And then the disengagement of the frame lock. So you've got all this access where they cut it away and then they heavily chamfered the lock bar face. So it's super comfortable to get your thumb right there. And then it is so easy to push it over. It takes so little effort to move this lock bar out of the way. And then because of the DLC coating, it's so smooth. It's just like it's gliding on. I don't know, the best way to describe it is like it's gliding on a pocket of air, or like if you've ever had two sheets of glass with like oil in between them and you feel it move and you're like, what, that was weird, you know what I mean? Like it's that kind of feeling. Like until you experience it, you're just like, oh, well, this is nice. And then the fact that the front flipper works so good. And man, when you do the rollover on it, I've never had a knife just slam the way this thing does when you do the rollover on it. It's so satisfying. I mean, it drives my girl freaking crazy, but I absolutely love it. Same way on the thumb flick. It works just as good as the reverse flick. And it's so satisfying to fidget with, in my opinion. You can wheel it out. There's it's a little pop at the beginning because the detent's so strong. It's not so strong, I shouldn't say that, because it's just perfectly dialed in. It's the best way to put it. And then the drop action on it. Man, the drop on it. It's not like that just straight guillotine. It's that nice controlled slow falling shut. You know, the kind of drop you want every knife in your collection to have. You know, the kind of action, let's be honest, that a lot of people are chasing. I mean, for me, like, that's a big reason why I love knives and why I keep searching for the next one that's gonna have even better action than the previous one I had. You know, without breaking the bank. Let's be honest here. I mean, that's the value proposition of this. Is right now it's $200. $200. Your contoured blackened titanium with a fat carbon fiber inlay, and a DLC coated S45VN blade that seems to be heat treated properly, because this thing cuts like a dream and it holds an edge like a dream, you know. And then just the action, again, the action. Every time I just go back to the action because it's that good, you know. And I mean, every Kizer I have has like really good action. But something about this one and the snappiness of the detent coupled with that DLC coating, like, I've handled the standard one and it still has phenomenal action. Don't get me wrong. And it is still extremely smooth, but it's not quite as smooth as the DLC one. The DLC one's just a little smoother, you know, not by a lot, but just a little bit. Just enough for you to notice. And it doesn't hurt that the damn thing looks good. You know, it's not crazy or out there. It just looks like a knife, but it looks good. The nice swedge, the carbon fiber inlay. Some people don't like the screws on here, but I mean, I don't really mind it. And then it means, like, if you want to, like, now they've started releasing new inlays for them that are only like $35, I think. So you can just buy a whole new inlay and swap it in here. I was really tempted to pick one up, but I don't know. I like this purple pink with the black. It just looks good in my opinion. You know, and then the pocket clip works wonderful on this one. Now, the original one, the ramp was, I don't even really think it was the ramp. I think it was more like the tension, but it didn't ride in the pocket all that great. This one rides in the pocket just fine. It's not the best clip I've ever used, but it works just fine and doesn't tear my pants up. So it's A-okay by me. And then it's flow through construction. So, you know, that's one knock I could maybe say is I wish it had a backspacer. But I think that's one of the ways they're able to keep the price down a little bit. It is pocketed on the inside. It's a good weight. Again, I can't, just like with every damn review I do, I can't remember the freaking weight, and I don't have my scale inside. It's out in the van. But it's, you know, it's if I had to guess, I would say pushing 4, you know, right at 4 would be my guess. You know, it's just a winner on all fronts. You can't go wrong. Boy, I'd hate to have this be the first knife I ever bought, because if this was the first knife I ever bought and I'd never handled another knife, I would be so fucking disappointed with every knife I bought after it. I would just be like, well, it ain't as good as my militaw. Yeah, well, it ain't as good as my militaw. My militaw was only $200. What the fuck? I feel like I'd just be constantly comparing it to this thing, because I still compare a lot of my knives to this thing because it's just that good, you know. It's just that good. You know, if you don't have one, I highly recommend it. The M391 with the 80s camo carbon looks, man, that one looks really good. I was kind of jealous of the people who got that one when it dropped, as I thought it would just be like a standard release. I didn't think it was a special release, but the fact that it doesn't have the logo on it, and it doesn't have the Jonathan Styles, which that's who designed this one, Jonathan Styles logo on the backside. So it's just a super clean look. And then, not to mention, every copy of that knife with that 80s camo on it has a really nice cut of 80s camo carbon. Like, some 80s camo carbon you can just get, and it's got a really good cut on it, you know, with all the colors showing off in it. And it just looks phenomenal, you know. And then other cuts, you get them in, they're missing colors, You know, like this don't got no blue on the show side, and then what little bit of blue is on the back is just a tiny bit. But you know, it throws it off not having all the colors on it. You know, so at least with the something like this, you're only working with two colors, so you don't have to worry about that. You know, the same way with the gold fat carbon one that they had that looks like this. That stuff looked great on here too. You know, and then the Damascus one, they came out with a Damascus one. Boy, that thing looked phenomenal again too. You know, hell, even the standard version with the micarta, and the stonewash blade, it still looks good. And then White Mountain Knives had some exclusives, and there's a reason why they've run this knife into the ground and released every version of it under the sun. Because it's sold like hotcakes for them. They've made a boatload of money off of it, and people love the damn thing. And like for the whole year this year, I feel like the only thing Kizer did was make militaws. Every militaw they could possibly get out the door, they made. And if I were them, I'd have done the same damn thing because it made them a bucket full of money. Yeah, and the knife's worth it. In my opinion, it's a way for people to experience this DLC coating, which was only possible before this on super premium knives that were costing 3, 4, 5 times as much as this knife cost, and I feel like it's only going to get more readily available from here on out. Like Kubi is starting to release some with DLC on it. Now, I haven't got to check any of them out, so I don't know how it looks or how it functions, or if it's real DLC, or if you've got a situation like you did with Best Tech where they said their knives were DLC and then turns out they were just PVD coated. But I'm waiting to the day when somebody makes a D2 blade in DLC with titanium handles and it's $100, maybe even a touch under $100, because the whole point of the DLC coating really is to give you the corrosion resistance on a steel that isn't stainless or doesn't have very good stainless propositions. And so D2 is like the perfect option for that, because D2 is super cheap, but it holds an edge. When D2 is heat treated properly, it is some of the best knife steel per dollar you can get, in my opinion. The only thing that holds it back is it not being stainless. So if you put the DLC coating on there and then give you the titanium handle, that looks nice, and charge $100 for it so that everybody can experience this coating and how it, in a real DLC coating, then I think you've got something that even tops the militaw, And Kizer, in my opinion, might be the first one to do it. I don't know. We'll see. It's one of those things where, some people will be like, oh, D2, I'd never pay $100 for a knife with D2 steel. But if it's done right and has the right materials along with it, the right coating on top of it, I do think it's worth $100. And I think a lot of people will feel the same way. But anyways, my value knife of the year, the Kizer Milit in DLC. Sorry, it got a little ranty and a little long-winded, but I can be a chatty Cathy sometimes. So. Anyways, hope y'all are all having a good one, and we'll catch you later.